The year 2025 is coming to an end, and yet the Russian army is still being worn down near Chasiv Yar and Pokrovsk. There's not even any talk anymore about capturing the entire Donetsk region. Even though Putin boasted to Trump that he would take all of Donbass back in the summer.
Of course. Of course. Of course.
Now the occupiers are advancing very slowly at the cost of tremendous effort and losses. Putin is paying for his shattered sense of greatness with hundreds of thousands of Russian soldiers. The year 2025 has set a record for losses for the aggressor. The summer offensive literally drowned in blood.
The summer offensive became the deadliest for Russian troops in the entire war, according to the British magazine The Economist. According to their data, about 31,000 Russian soldiers have died at the front since May 1st.
It is important to note that since January of this year, for example, 100,000 Russian soldiers have been killed. Killed, not just casualties. These are not total losses.
October in general became a golden period for funeral services in the swamps. In just this 1 month, the Russians lost 25,000 people. That is 1.5 times more than the USSR lost in 10 years in Afghanistan.
There haven't been any successes there, meaning they've lost people, they've lost equipment. As for the results, well, I don't know what they're officially claiming, but in reality there are no results. Go ahead and amass as many people as you want, amass them. In the end, these people will simply die. And at best, they'll advance some position by 100 meters. The recent assault where the 114th Brigade showed up, remember when they pushed forward, everyone was like, wow, what a breakthrough. But what happened? They got cut off. With
each passing day, the losses are growing at a wild rate because the Kremlin ghouls want to capture at least something before the end of the year, even if it's just ruins. As a result, in the battle for the ruins, the Russians have already lost more people than lived in these cities before the invasion. But they keep driving Yemel to the slaughter because the Pale Führer and his generals have already reported grand victories. Everyone's been surrounded, everyone's been demilitarized, but only on paper. Now, Russian soldiers are paying for Kremlin bravado with their lives. Well,
an assault trooper, like me, an assault trooper. And as an assault trooper, we don't live long. There's this drone there, Baba Yaga. It can take out an entire regiment or something like that. Basically everyone, just like that. Right now it's a meat grinder out there.
Z channels admit that the battle for Pokrovsk has already surpassed the Bakhmut meat grinder in scale. Back then, the occupiers buried about 40,000 people in the ground.
We still haven't managed to completely encircle Pokrovsk geographically. And that's why we're forced to push them out, meaning we have to fight urban battles. And the losses there are very heavy, of course, on both sides. For us, they're comparable to Bakhmut, to the battles for Bakhmut. Remember, when Yevgeny Prigozhin was still alive, he announced that figure. 20,000 Wagner fighters killed just for Bakhmut. And there was probably no fewer from the units that are directly under the Ministry of Defense. And I want to remind you that when the Wehrmacht took Poland in September 1939, its losses were just over 20,000.
Just think about it. The Wehrmacht, with those losses, captured all of Poland, while Putin's army can't even take the Donetsk region. Naturally, the ultra-patriots are starting to get discouraged and are asking uncomfortable questions more and more boldly.
What the hell?
Let me remind you that it was after the battle for Bakhmut, due to the horrific losses, that Prigozhin's mutiny happened. And the army essentially supported him.
Most of the military support us wholeheartedly. We keep getting messages. Thank you, guys. Finally, there will truly be justice in the army at long last. At last, you'll make absolutely sure that we actually get the supplies we need and that they finally stop sending us out just to be slaughtered over and over again.
Naturally, the same thing can and should happen again after Pokrovsk. Especially since the occupying army is now in an even worse situation and is suffering even greater losses. The treatment of soldiers has also become harsher. The shocking statistics speak for themselves. For everyone killed, there is about 1 wounded. 1 to 1. This is truly beyond comprehension. The Russians simply abandon their wounded to die, or they immediately send them back into the assault, until they are killed.
What is happening is beyond words. They will go to any lengths to accomplish their mission. The utter lawlessness going on here can't be explained or described in any way. Never under any circumstances sign a contract, whether you're from prison or a civilian, whether you want to clear your record or make money. Do you know what's happening here?
Those who refuse to go on suicide assaults are tortured or eliminated. The Russian soldier is officially a disposable item thrown away after use. What about the equipment for those who aren't planning to go?
It's a nightmare. What's happening here? So many guys have already died. Friends, loved ones. I had an acquaintance. Well, more like someone I knew from a group of friends. He was there for 2 days. That's it, they brought him back in a body bag.
The most successful Russian tactic is the so-called infiltration. The idea is for the infantry to run through the kill zone and hide somewhere. But the kill zone isn't called that for nothing. On average, out of 3 people, at best only one makes it and waits in cover until a few more lucky ones reach him the same way. As a result, all the fields and roads are strewn with boys in their underwear.
So many bodies blown up.
Lost a leg, either from a blast, a drop, or running. I don't know. It's probably been a week already. I'm really hungry. There are a lot of corpses, a whole lot. The leaves have fallen. I don't know where to go. I don't see any villages, nothing at all. No berries, nothing at all. Where do I run? How do I survive? I hope I survive.
The Russian army is incapable of large-scale, deep breakthroughs. All it can do is spend years capturing small towns, burying them in corpses. And this has no strategic significance whatsoever. Because after a hypothetical Pokrovsk, they'll have to lose another 100,000 just to take the next small town. Naturally, demoralization among the occupiers grows with every passing minute. There is no prospect of victory. There isn't even a terrible end, only endless horror. Even the ultra-patriots, the war zealots, the rabid Russian fascists have started screaming that the so-called special military operation needs to be ended immediately. No one believes in victory anymore.
We won't achieve victory in the way we've dreamed of it. And that's why...
In what sense?
Well, because we simply won't get it. It's a process, really. It's not an outcome. We imagine victory like in 1945, the red flag over the Reichstag, and we've won. That kind of victory just isn't going to happen now. And in Ukraine, it has never happened in that form. When we reunited with Little Russia with Ukraine in the 17th century, we fought for another 12 years after that, barely managed to reclaim the left bank, and took Kiev on lease. And after that, we kept dealing with the Ukrainian issue all the way up to Catherine, which was, what, well, about 150 years.
If even diehards like Prelpin have become disillusioned with the meat grinder, then what can you expect from the non-systemic commoners? Everyone refers to the Tsar's mental abilities as deep concern because Pina lives in a parallel reality where he's about to divide the world with America, capture Kyiv and Odessa. Russian soldiers are provided with everything they need and are armed with the most modern, unparalleled weaponry. This is still how Putin imagines the Russian army. But this is what the Russian army actually looks like. It's so-called elite frontline units. Shabby, riding rusty Zhigulis, they really look like marauders from the movie Mad Max. The old man is clearly out of touch with reality, just like everyone around him. That's why the ultra-patriots are scared. After all, the army is on the verge of collapse and mutiny. The soldiers hate the officers and don't want to die. The officers hate the soldiers for not wanting to die. All of them together hate the Kremlin for throwing them into a senseless hell. It's no wonder the Z supporters are panicking, shouting, and demanding to pull out of the war. They're afraid of a mutiny in the army. They're afraid that hundreds of thousands of embittered killers and marauders will abandon the front and flood into Mother Russia in search of justice.
This is a time bomb that it's already becoming clear that if the process of halting hostilities continues to develop the way it is now, it will end sooner or later. All these people who have received weapons, who have been through the war, some of whom have a very serious criminal past, these people have to be addressed and dealt with somehow, by the authorities.
The officers, of course, are trying to keep the soldiers in line with terrifying methods that we cannot show on YouTube. And we wouldn't, out of moral conviction. Russians are killing and maiming other Russians en masse in order to fight against Ukrainians. The Russian world is senseless and merciless.
How can humanity grow up? Well, I was about to say something, but it sounds kind of stupid. Well, go ahead. To go to war. To go to war, yes. To go to war for your family, for your people, for your happiness, for your future, for your children. Because when we've all fought, that's when we'll stop being children. What the hell are you talking about?
At the beginning of the invasion, everyone was asking, how many people does Russia have to lose to stop? What should be the critical number of losses for the Russian people to rise up and say, enough is enough? Unfortunately, it turned out that the level of indifference toward others among the Russian people is very high. In Tula, they don't care about the bombings in Belgorod, and in Smolensk, they don't care about the fighting in the Kursk region. No one cares that in a single apartment building, 10 people have been bagged up in Ukraine. But even such an extreme level of indifference has its limits. And now the loyal serfs are starting to wake up, tearing themselves away from their TV screens and being stunned by the harsh reality where the growth of cemeteries can only be rivaled by the rise in gasoline prices. And the life of a Russian person is worth less than an old toilet seat ring. If Russians don't come to their senses, Putin will send a few more million of them to their deaths under the slogan of protecting Russians.
Ironic.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.